I get so many new freelancers asking me how to sign their first client, and I'm hoping this video will just simplify it for you because it is not as hard as most newbies think it is. And I made this mistake as well when I first started copywriting. I thought it was something that took a long time to scale, and I kind of surprised myself. I just went all in 1 month purely because I had to. I moved out of my parents' house. I had literally no money. I was running out of all the savings. I was gonna have to move back in, and I was like, this is my 10K month. I'm gonna do whatever it takes, hit 10K. I went crazy with like networking, booking sales calls, and I'll get into exactly how I did it. But in 30 days, I went from negative $1,400 to 10K in revenue from my copywriting, and I had just learned that skill. So it was like not something that I had spent months studying. I literally had just learned what copywriting was like 2 months before that. So this was a really accelerated process, and yeah, it just made me realize how simple it is. So the first thing I did, because I didn't really have a lot going for me when I started in business. I was raised in like a family where my parents worked 9 to 5s. I wasn't really exposed to entrepreneurship. I was pretty much like just sheltered from that whole world of like, the make money space, the financial freedom, the digital nomad lifestyle. So I didn't really know a whole lot about that. I didn't know a whole lot of people doing it. But one thing I knew was that that was the value. Like knowing people doing what you wanted to do was the most valuable thing you could have. The best asset was a network. And so I got really busy networking, and like I, in a very short period of time, met a lot of influential people. So the main way I did this was through a podcast. And this is something that I think it can be a shiny object, but it also can be a massive asset if you want to meet people and network at an accelerated pace. Like podcasts are the best way. I just signed a client for $16,000, and it was someone that I had on a podcast like a year ago. And I got to know his business. I got to know his story. I got to know his dreams and his goals. And because I built that rapport it's been a year now since like I did that podcast, which by the way, I didn't even know what copywriting was when I had him on the podcast. But now since that relationship was so strong and I knew his business so well, it was a very natural transition to then have him come on as a client. He actually reached out to me. So that was the first thing I started doing. I started podcasting and networking. And that's what I recommend to everyone is like either start doing some type of content that helps you network with people, or go to events, find people online. You do not have to pay to network. You can literally go to free events, free networking events in your local city, or you can go onto an online community or an online mastermind. Anybody can do this, by the way. This is not limited to people in the US or limited to people in any location. Like if you have access to the internet, you can network. You can go onto school, you can go onto, different online platforms and meet entrepreneurs, get to know what their needs are, where the demand is, and you're just solving their problems for them. So that's number one, is like meet people, network, and go in with this attitude of, I just want to learn. I just want to figure out how they built what they built, how they created what they created, why they did it. Because when I went in with that learning attitude, nobody felt like they were being pitched to. And it's because they genuinely weren't. I've literally never pitched somebody. The only time that I tell people what I charge is when they ask me. So that's step number one. I started tapping into a network that I didn't even have a couple months prior. So I started going to events, started joining communities on school for free, by the way, and I started networking. So I invested my last savings into a couple masterminds. I did put some money into the in-person events, and that was the best decision I could have made. Like I flew across the country from New York to LA, went to an in-person event, and that was one of the places where I signed 2 clients that led to my 10K month. So in May, flew out to an event at the very end of the month. I met this guy. I remember I was talking to him for like 30 minutes about his business. And finally, at the end of the conversation, he's like, so what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a copywriter. I write marketing materials. And like at this point, I was just practice copywriting. Like I really didn't have anything going for me. I didn't have any active clients. I'd written copy for one person paid, but like that was it. And so I tell him this, and he's like, oh, that's amazing. Like I've been trying to launch this brand, blah, blah, blah. I really need help with the marketing. How much do you charge? And I just watched like one video on YouTube that said you should charge 3K and no less. And so I just said, I charge 3K and it goes up from there. And I remember being like, that's crazy. Like in my head, I was like, what's he going to say? And he was just like, okay, cool. Let me talk to my business partner. I actually might know some people that would need that as well. And sure enough, he became a client, and then he referred me a client. And I had no experience and no credibility to be saying 3K. I'd never charged anybody that. But I was just in the right place, around the right people at the right time. And that number was totally justifiable to him because of the amount of money he was already making in business. So that's like number one, is building your network. Number two is actually getting on the calls with these people, following up. I booked a call with him straight after the event to follow up on that conversation we'd had, and then booked a call with the person he referred me, where he introduced me to her. We built some rapport, and then I also sold her. So number one is networking. Number two is getting on calls and actually nurturing that lead, figuring out what they actually need so you can get together a proposal. And then the last step is actually getting good at the copywriting. So once you've signed that client, you've gone on the call, you send them a proposal, you get them on a follow-up call, and you sign them. Now you want to make sure that whatever it is you signed, you know what the heck you're doing before you submit it to them. And I say this last because people spend so much freaking time trying to prepare and trying to be perfect and trying to learn the skill before they've actually even signed a client. And they'll spend 6 months just learning and not taking any action. And I started signing clients, and then I remember spending hours and hours and hours just like studying how to build a sales page because this guy needed a sales page, and like studying how to write emails for like an e-commerce company that I signed. And I'd never written emails for e-commerce. And so I was like just figuring it out as I went. But because I had these self-imposed deadlines of like, I told the client they were going to have copy within a week, I had a week to learn this, I would just go all in 12 hours a day studying copy, writing copy for another 4 hours a day. I was pulling like 16-hour days at the start just because I wanted to get good fast, and I didn't want to waste time in the learning phase when I could also be making money. So I did it at the same time. And sure, there might be some people that are like, no, you like, that's not right. Like, you got to go and learn the skill first. I don't think there's right and wrong. I think it just comes down to, can you make your clients money? And I could, because I studied a lot as soon as I signed them. So that's what I would recommend. If you guys are looking to sign your first client, go crazy networking, go online, find entrepreneurs that you can learn from, add value to, get them on calls, figure out what exactly they need, write them a proposal, add a couple extra add-ons to the proposal, upsell them maybe, but then ultimately learn the skill after you sign them so you can deliver really good results and make them a ton of money. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that just simplified it for you guys. It does not need to take more than 30 days, but if you want help signing that first client and really perfecting the skill of copy, book a call below. I'm happy to create a strategy, come up with a game plan for you, and see if there's any way I can help you actually sign clients. And I will see you guys in the next video.